work. You know, I get up at 5 in the morning and do my normal morning things, and then I'm out the door of the shelter, walking to work. You know, it's brisk walk now that it's getting cooler. About an hour and some change, maybe 3 or 4 miles. I don't know. It's a peaceful walk. I get to work early. You know, I don't have to work until 8. I usually get there about 6:15, and sit on our patio and read till whoever opens the store that day opens. And then I work. I'm out of there by 5, and then it's that hour walk again at the end of the day to think about what happened during the day. I get paid every 2 weeks consistently, and I'm still homeless.
We have so many homeless people on the street now that they've sort of become invisible. They become part of the scenery. We don't think of them as human beings anymore. We just think of them as bums. We like to think of homeless people as possessing some quality that the rest of us don't possess, or lacking some quality that the rest of us do possess, that they're somehow different than everybody else. We're never going to eliminate homelessness until we realize that the only difference between someone who's homeless and someone who isn't is that they don't have a home. I think the most common misconception that people have about homeless people is that all homeless people are that drunk that you see sitting on the corner beside a liquor store asking for money. But most homeless people are not that guy. Most homeless people look just like everybody else. The homeless people that we see are just those homeless people who've given up trying to hide the fact they're homeless. There's homeless people everywhere that you have no idea about. It could be that guy in a suit. It could be that woman in a nice dress. It could be that mother with her 3 children walking down the street. It isn't necessarily just that guy shaking a cup by a liquor store.
You look at me, you can't tell that I'm homeless. But actually, I've been homeless for like 4 years. I got hurt when I was working in the warehouse for Sony, and I tore my back up so bad that I had to have what they call a spinal fusion. You know, it's been a difficult road to get to this point to talk to you guys, because I still suffer from humiliation. I never told nobody that I lost my job because I was humiliated. I couldn't talk to a lot of friends because of how I think they would face me. My parents would see me show up, and then my mother would know, "What you doing with that backpack? You know, what's going on? Aren't you supposed to be at work?" And I would never tell them because I was ashamed. I could never lay down on the ground and be comfortable. So I have always learned the routes of how to travel on the bus, on the city bus. I would travel from here to downtown LA, to Long Beach, get on the train. And by the time I make a certain type of route, it would be 3 in the morning. And then I would take another bus from downtown back to here, then it would be 5 in the morning. And then I would try to blend in, but I would be tired all the time. When I couldn't go to no motel and I didn't have any money, and I was constantly riding on the bus and I didn't have anything left to do, nowhere left to go, that was scary. That was like one of the most frightening feelings. Sometimes you could even consider wanting to die rather than suffer the humiliation or even face the next day.
Most people who are homeless, about 2/3 of people who are homeless, get off the street in 6 months. And it's really that other third that gets trapped in the cycle of what we call chronic homelessness. Once you get caught in that cycle, once you become a chronically homeless person, you're spending so much of your time just trying to exist as a homeless person that you really have no time to spend on trying to get off the street.
That's the motor, it's just hard coming out of it. You probably need a hammer to... Sometimes you don't want to waste your time with one thing and have to mess with it. I don't have any tools with me. I've been an addict for quite a while. Probably since I was like 13. Never woke up thinking, oh, I'm gonna be an addict someday, you know? Or that's what I want to be when I grow up, you know? I guess when I was little, I always thought like an archaeologist or something like that, or geologist or something. And then maybe artist. I've done a lot of, you know, work and stuff in different areas. I've had a lot of different jobs. When you go dumpster diving or, you know, scrapping for metal, you want to try and find copper or aluminum that pays more, and then when you separate it to its purest state, then you get paid more than if it's a mixture.
This thing, I just want to make sure we have dope tonight.
Yeah.
So when we wake up, we ain't got to worry, wait on this motherfucker till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
What is the whole thing?
I gotta go make another $30, so I got my bag for tonight and bag for in the morning. I wrecked my pickup truck back in eastern Tennessee. I had to have back surgery, and they had me on these really powerful pain pills, and that's how I became addicted to opiates. I don't blame anybody but myself for my own choices.
After so long, you shooting heroin just to stay well. You're not even getting high no more. You're just feeling normal. Just feeling. You just shooting dope just to just to be all right. You know, the high part after a year shooting dope, the high part is gone. Got my former Johns on Carhartts. Can't be homeless without a pair of Carhartts, man. It's just not right. They keep you warm in the winter. When you jumping in and out of those fucking garbage cans, keep your good shit from getting dirty.
Dublin map.
Huh?
The Dublin map.
I don't know what Dublin is.
I think it's in Ireland.
Okay, I'm going this way, Mark.
All right. You can find just about anything. Aluminum?
Here.
All right.
Shoot that wire, dude.
Huh?
You don't have to shoot that, dude. That's just a light, man.
I've gotten on methadone program and stuff, so I've been trying to get off of street drugs, turn my life back around.
Gotta do what we gotta do. At least I'm not knocking somebody in the head or breaking in people's shit. I look at it like this while I'm holding a sign. Nobody owes me anything. But I do appreciate what little help that they do give. And it's sad but true. Unfortunately, it's the poor people that pull up in a junk beater automobile with 4 or 5 kids in the back and give you their last $5 bill or their last bit of change. And again, nobody owes me anything, but you'll get some rich person pull up in a big fancy automobile and just turn their nose up at you.
Oh, man.
You know?
I had this lady roll the window up on me, and I was like, bitch,
That cracks me up. You're
That's
standing there
really-
with a sign,
I got a sign in my hand, and you think I'm finna rob you, huh?
and they're doing 30, 40 miles an hour going down the road, and you hear the door locks click, click.
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna pull a Matrix or a
Yeah.
Spider-Man, you know, 40 miles an hour, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
carjack
You
you.
hear him blocking the doors, rolling. The windows up, the lady said. It won't go no higher, man.
People walk by in the morning in disgust, and you look at them and you say, oh, like, you know, like you're just a detriment to society. People have this stereotype that if you're homeless, oh, well, you're homeless because you must have a mental health issue, or you must have a substance abuse issue, or you must have an issue with alcoholism. They try to stigmatize you and stick you with them issues and say, well, you're homeless because you did it to yourself and you want to be homeless. That's what they try to tell me in the shelter. They try to say, well, if you're homeless, you know, you somewhere down the line, you must have did something to contribute to that. But nobody wants to accept the fact that you're homeless just because of poverty and you poor, or you can't get a job, and then when you do get a job, they don't pay you a decent enough living wage to afford rent. You see, in their mind, they say, oh, this is just a lazy person just laying there. They need to get up off their ass. They need to get a job. They need to become productive to society. And that's not how it's like. You gotta look into how this person got this way.
4 million people are going to experience homelessness this year. What does it say about us as a people when 650,000 of them are going to be veterans? Okay, that put up their lives and their families for our freedom, and then we come home and we can't even give them a place to live. So what is all of that saying about us as a people?
I served 6 years in the Marine Corps. One reason I served is because I could not afford a college education on my own income. I had to join the Corps and get the Montgomery GI Bill to pay for my 6 years of college, going to Miami-Dade Community College and University of Miami. And still, I came back from Iraq to zero. When I came back home to the South Bronx, the place that I had taken over from my parents, they had raised my rent to the point I couldn't afford it no more.
The government says that as an American citizen, 30% of your income should go towards your housing costs. That's 30% of your income. Working a 40-hour week. In the Washington metropolitan area, you have to make $27.71 an hour to live in the Washington metropolitan area. That's not enough money to afford you a decent place to live. But what if you got a kid? I'm talking about a single person. How about a family? It can't be done.
I had a job, but it wasn't enough for me to be able to get an apartment. You know, it was minimum wage, part-time. My family spread out all over the place, so I was kind of alone, you know, just wandering around, not knowing what to do, where to go, and ran into a couple people down here at the ocean front, didn't know where I was gonna sleep. And They told me about people camping in the woods. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go camping in the woods. And I did that for about 2 years. It brought back a lot of memories of being homeless as a young child. I, remember things that my mom would do. Just little survival things, how to make fires, how to keep your wood dry, how to make sure you rake your leaves so it doesn't puddle up when you're trying to walk around and it's raining, little things like that. I hear her in my head, nope, you gotta do it this way. I used to live in those woods where they're building the $4 million no-kill animal shelter. They kicked out about 100 homeless people to build that animal shelter. Yep.
When you go around the country, you're going to have a lot of advocacy organizations which will say, I'll tell you how homeless people think. I'll tell you how homeless people exist in the world. What we believe is that the best people to answer that are people who have been unhoused or who are currently unhoused. I think what we need to do is think about what's in the best interests of individuals who are unhoused. And the way that you do that is by letting them lead the way and speak for themselves.
I became homeless in 2004. And the reason that I became homeless is I have schizophrenia. And schizophrenia is a mental illness. It affects about 1 out of every 100 people. By the time that I was 29, I was unable to hold down a job or keep myself housed. That's how I ended up homeless for the first time. It was over a year before you could tell that I was homeless, because usually you're so ashamed of your condition, you don't want anyone to know. So I ended up doing some freight hopping and hitchhiking. I ended up being homeless in big cities like Chicago and little communities, rural communities. I was just kind of thinking of myself as someone who was down on their luck, doing a little bit of traveling. Most people travel on the inside of the train, but it's just a minor detail. But when I got to New York, it was really starting to sink in that, my life had taken a turn for the worse and I should do something about this. So I started applying for jobs, anything, burger flipper at McDonald's. But I didn't have an address, I didn't have a phone number, I didn't have any references in the area. There wasn't a lot I could put on an application except for my name. And so obviously I didn't get any callbacks. And so I would be in the library all day, and then I would leave when the library closed, and I would walk about 60 blocks south to this abandoned building in the West Village. And it was in front of this building where I was attacked for the first time, about a week after I got to New York City. Some kids woke me up with a baseball bat.
I spent a lot of time on the train trying to conceal my homelessness so I wouldn't be treated in a way that, I shouldn't be treated. I've seen people coming from clubs and get on the subway and see a homeless person and, like I said, throw lighter fluid on them, set them on fire, throw food on them, throw alcohol on them, beer, bottles, cans, everything. Kick them, beat them up, rob them. Seen all sorts of things.
I've seen a group of skateboarders, and half of them have these big gulp cups in their hand, And as they get to a group of homeless people, they take the contents of the big gulp cups and just throw it in the face. That may not sound so bad, except for the contents of the big gulp cup was urine. And they just douse you with piss.
Why?
Just so they think it's funny.
I was beaten, I was stoned, I was spray painted, I was urinated on, just not just the violent, but also the degrading and dehumanizing sort of attacks that go on. It really started to escalate back when bum fights first became popular. Bum fights was a series of videos that was made in 2000 and 2001 by some kids in California and Nevada, and they would film homeless people. They'd give them a couple bucks or get them drunk, and then have them do dangerous and degrading things. The worst was their bum hunter, where they had a guy dress up like Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. And he would go around at night and actually attack sleeping homeless people.
Just relax. Relax. Doing. Just relax. Oh my God. Hold on. This is number 142.
And this was sold in Best Buy, Target, and Borders, and Barnes and Noble. Some of the young people who've committed these attacks have said that they were doing a public service by getting rid of a bum, you know? And I think that the more you dehumanize someone, the easier it is to do terrible things to them.
If it's cold and it rains on you, this sucks. But you're like, it's nature. That's what it's supposed to do. But when somebody that doesn't know you or anything about you looks you in your eyes and makes a face like it would have been better had you not been created, that's that's so preventable. That's just, there is a choice to be made there, and they made a choice that's unfortunate. So I'd much rather take a cold, rainy day than a cold, rainy person.
You often get that attitude like it's me against the world. And enough of that every day, day in and day out, can make you unstable mentally. It can make you bitter, and it can take all the goodness from you.
More and more people are just beating on homeless, and that's both. It's mostly young folks between 13 and 25 years of age. It's mostly white kids, and in suburbia. These are individuals who have been the audience for a conversation of an older generation talking about how these people are kind of failures in life and that they really need to improve their own condition. They need to stop sucking off the teat of Mother Liberty, whatever that means. You know, they have to start to, be accountable for their own situation. And so there's this really uninformed body of knowledge that they walk around with.
There was times, I'd go to Fenway Park in Boston, so that's where we're from Massachusetts, and there'd be a homeless guy, right next to the park, with a candy money. And I'd just keep on walking right by him. I'd be like, get a job. That would be my thing. But now I understand it as going through things and seeing things,
I was a nurse for 10 years, and when I got pregnant with Kylie, I ended up going through postpartum depression after I delivered and getting treatment for the depression. I ended up with a brain aneurysm. And I was disabled after, the surgery, and so I went from making really good money to nothing.
I was a police officer for some time in the city that I grew up in, and she had the brain aneurysm, like she said, and everything's been very trying, after that, the work up in Mass started to fall off. There was no more work up there. So, like she said, we ended up coming down here and ended up becoming homeless down here.
They were remodeling down the waterfront a restaurant, and me and Bill and Kylie was 4, and We slept on concrete.
This has been a really big reality check, you know? It's like, I never knew this kind of life, you know, existed. You know, and it's been a huge learning experience, huge.
It's a different life, and we honestly didn't realize it, but we pretty much lived a sheltered life. We had what we needed, and this was a good dose of humility.
Yeah, it's an adult dose, that's for sure.
So what we want to do and what we need to do is we need to bring the problem back down to kind of a manageable level. That's when kind of respect and dignity, that's when the ethics of the interaction between one and another can start to be worked on. When it's really, really large, then the homeless population becomes a herded mass, and we start to treat them as such. And then you start to have compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is a community who invests in solving the social ill of homelessness and finds repeated failure over and over again so that their investment has no positive return. So as a result, the emotional toxin that's produced by that repeated failure results in this fatigue. Many times the compassion fatigue resides within an individual, but if it's around enough and there's enough harmonic thought between a group of individuals, what then happens is communities start to act as a community that's in resistance to homelessness. And that's when you start finding criminalization of homelessness. That's when you start finding people say, like, you can't sit and lie here, and if you do, we're gonna fine you, simply because they were doing what you do when you don't have a house.
Municipalities feel so overwhelmed by the number of homeless people that instead of trying to take proactive solutions to solve the problem, they just try to legislate it out of existence. So one of the things that Phoenix did was they made it illegal to sleep outside. And obviously this is a problem if you're homeless. They said the reason that they did this was they wanted people to go into shelters so they could get help. But at the same time, they were closing down shelters. The real reason was they wanted people to go be homeless someplace else. The city next door, Tempe, actually made it illegal to sit outside because they didn't want the homeless people to come from Phoenix.
I'm one of those people who have always said, this could never happen to me. Never imagined. I came from a good family, had really good jobs, was married. Let's just say I lost my way due to personal reasons, bad decisions, bad choices. And it just got worse and worse to the point that then I was breaking the law. In the town where I was living, where I was in trouble, there was a probation, a rule. I had to have a place to live. So I didn't have a place to live. And the town was in the process of getting a shelter. There were many places they could put a shelter, and the city kept saying, and certain people in the city was saying, no, we don't want homeless in this neighborhood. So there was nowhere for me to live. I had nowhere to go. And the probation officer says, you have to have somewhere for me to come and check on you. If you're on the street, so it's a violation to be on probation and be homeless. So a lot of people that are homeless are as well running from the law. I either had to do 5 years of probation versus I could just go for a year and a half and incarcerate myself, go to prison, activate my sentence, the year and a half, and it would all be over with, and I could leave that town. So my choice was either leave the city and be what's called an absconder, or go away, and that's what I chose to do. I had somewhere to go. Prison. Scary, sad, it's humiliating. It's messed up.
I truly believe that homelessness is just one bad decision away for anybody. I'm one of the people that was homeless due to bad decision making. There's no question about that in my mind. You know? The day that I sat on that bench, that I determined that I was homeless, and I started thinking about all the years that had gotten me to that point. It was funny that I only had one thought, you know. And at 51 years old, almost 6'3", close to 300 pounds. The only thing I wanted at that time was my mommy, you know. I didn't want my mom. I didn't want my mother. I needed my mommy. I needed somebody to hold me and tell me, son, everything's gonna be all right, you know. But I was scared. The longer that you're out there, you give up hope. You know what I mean? I was out there, I was living on the streets for 18 months. There was a 3-month stretch where I never heard my name. Nobody called me by my name. You know? And it's funny because when you do hear it, then you say, you know, I mean, just those simple things that that a lot of homeless people go through. People not speaking to them, not being able to socialize with people.
The perception that we have of homeless people and of poor people in this country is a lot more negative than in other countries. I had a friend from Nicaragua who came to do what we call the homeless challenge, to come and sleep on the streets for 48 hours. And he said the reason he wanted to do it was he didn't understand why everybody hates homeless people in this country. He said, in my country, everybody's a stone's throw away from being homeless. So there's a lot more understanding. And in a lot of other Western countries, there's a solidarity amongst the poor. Here, that doesn't exist. Here, we have a guilt complex about being poor. This is the American dream. This is the land of the free. If you didn't make it, it's your fault.
This was my mom and dad's home. This is 315 East 22nd. 22nd Kentucky in Joplin, Missouri, where the tornado hit. And this is just the aftermath. This is about 3.5 weeks aftermath of the, well, now it's going on, I guess, almost a month, really. There's just so many memories here that I'll never forget. I can remember sitting many a time out on this porch, you know, like of an evening. I was trying to find a place to rent, you know, but there are just over 3,000 people displaced.
Right, everybody looking for us.
Oh yeah, you know, so all the rentals went like that.
Right.
But I'm just glad I got the Best Western. But it's just so expensive. It's like $500 a week. My insurance only pays up to like $1,500 a month. So I'm gonna have to try to get out of there as soon as I can. It's quite an ordeal, I'll tell you. I can't go a whole lot longer, you know, at $500 a week, you know, so anyway. You know, you can be called at any time. Life's pretty fragile, really.
What's it like at the shelter?
awesomeness. No, but it's actually no, I will liken that to jail. Having never been, but I've seen a couple of movies. The shelter is like they portray jail on TV.
Unfortunately, most of the city-run shelters are just big warehouses for the working poor, the mentally ill, and the drug addicted. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no exit strategy once you go in.
Personally, I don't like the shelters for the simple fact that I have PTSD, and I don't like large crowds, and 9 times out of 10, you go to these shelters, it's just a bunch of bullshit.
You're getting up early in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like you're in corrections. Too early before, I don't go to work until 9 a.m. I gotta wake up 4 hours before work, so that makes me even more tired. Then there's conflict with that. Sometimes your job schedule conflicts with the shelter schedule. And a lot of times you get put out, or you have to give up that job. So you have to choose between a cot and some hostile conditions, or keeping that job and sleeping on the train.
The money is made in sustaining homelessness and keeping the programs going. 80%, like I was saying earlier, that 80% of the funding available for social services, including issues pertaining to homelessness, are taken up by those categorized as chronically homeless. Why not work with the easiest people first and you can get them out the way? I'm talking about we could cut down the roads of homelessness around this country tremendously if we address those least vulnerable rather than those most vulnerable. So I want to concentrate on those that's least vulnerable, that's in homelessness now, but have not lost their hope, have not become complacent, have not lost their desire to be productive citizens in this country, because homelessness will take all of that from you.
Give them that hungry.
Alrighty.
Rub your stomach a little.
Okay. Alright, thank you. Alrighty, bye. I was homeless. My mom left me. She abandoned me like maybe 3 or 4 months before I was gonna end my freshman year of high school. She wanted to move back to Colorado. But she didn't understand the fact that if I would have left, there's no way I was gonna regain those credits. So all those credits would have been lost. And to me, education is like my priority. My parents, my older brother, my older sister, they don't have an education. None of them graduated high school. And I just saw how they were living, and I just thought to myself, that's not how I want to live. She just kind of disagreed with me and told me things like, you're not going to graduate high school anyways. You're not going to make anything of yourself, basically. I left for maybe 2 nights to spend the night with one of my cousins. And then the second night, I was like, you know what, maybe my mom's cooled down, something like that. And I walked home. But when I walked home, that house was completely abandoned. I just went to school. I went to a couple of friends, so I couch surfed a lot. I stayed with them 3 or 4 days until their parents were like, look, you can't stay here anymore. I ended up living on the bleachers of my school for maybe like 4 or 5 months. I'd go down to the water fountain, I'd brush my teeth, I'd put water in my hair to make it look, a little snazzy, and I'd go to class. You couldn't tell the difference at all. I'd go to a 7-Eleven right down the street, just steal a donut, Slurpee, and a Snickers bar, every once in a while. And every time I could, I'd go to one of my friends' house and they'd feed me, things like that. But one thing I never did was ask for money. I hated that. It's just one of those things where it's just I guess I was in denial. I didn't want to be known as a homeless person because I just thought, if you beg for money, you're considered homeless. And I did not want to be in that category at all. People just think homeless people are just these people that beg for food and look bummy and stink and things like that, but it's different kinds of homelessness. A lot of people don't know that.
Nationally, the #1 cause of homelessness is lack of affordable housing. The number 2 cause is poor paying jobs. Number 3 is lack of health care. Number 4 is domestic violence. And number 5 is mental illness, with drugs and alcohol somewhere after that.
There will always be natural disasters. There will always be incidents that lead to someone losing their home. What we can prevent is allowing people who have become homeless to slip into that chronic homelessness. Right now, the system, the way it's set up, homelessness is something that happens. But chronic homelessness is something that we manufacture because we have such a terrible emergency services system, a system that is set up to maintain homelessness rather than to alleviate.
There are billions of dollars that are going towards the ending of homelessness. And there are tens of thousands of individuals who spend most of their lives working on this issue. So that's enough resource to make a lot of progress, and we're not making progress.
Their outreach programs consist of feeding the homeless, and that's great. That's great. I'm not saying nothing against that. But if that's all you're willing to do, okay, what are you doing? You're not doing nothing to end homelessness. What you're doing is sustaining homelessness.
We spend so much time trying to make sure that people aren't dying on the street. We don't have any time to make sure that they get off.
There's so many ministries, so many different outreach organizations that's willing to feed you, give you a sandwich, some water, banana, or juice. But where are the organizations that's trying to join forces and create affordable housing? Who's out here combining forces to create living wage jobs?
I think it's always best to come back to this coin, which has the 3 root causes of homelessness and then the 3 solutions to homelessness. And the root causes are a lack of affordable housing, a lack of accessible health care, and a lack of jobs that pay a living wage. And you just flip that coin over and there are your solutions. 1 out of every 4 homeless people would be, off the streets, out of shelters, and living independently, as long as we as a country agreed with the premise that people who work should be paid a fair wage.
It never ceases to amaze me that when times are tough, the first things that we cut are the programs that are supposed to be in place to help people when times are tough. A guy named Sam Sabaris in New York, he did the numbers and realized that in New York City they could save between $10,000 and $15,000 for each chronically homeless person that they took off the street and they put directly into housing with wraparound services to help them recover from the problems that led them to become homeless in the first place. It costs 3 times as much money to put someone in jail as to put them into housing. It costs 5 times as much to put someone into an institution as it does to put them into housing. We've had well over 1,000 people here in Washington who've been pulled off the streets and put into housing and remained in housing. It's people who, most providers had no hope for, and who are now not only housed, but starting to do better in their own lives. If you put them into a stable housing situation, you give them a fighting chance.
You can't just give it your best effort, because giving it your best is not the solution. Actually solving the problem by creating enough of a solution that it addresses the scope of the problem. That's how you solve this problem. After World War II, when veterans were returning from the war, there was a desire in our minds and in our hearts to house these individuals. So we built a lot of affordable housing, and that housing was really, really good. So that's just one example of, if it's a population that we feel compassionate towards and that they are deemed to be deserving, then we can solve this problem to the scale of the need.
I wish people would treat this like they treat HIV when it became HIV and AIDS, when it became so known, so hit so many people. There was organizations and people that it affected, whether the gay community or wherever, straight community, they all jumped in and made people aware of it, and they attacked it, and they haven't let up on it to this day.
What's it going to take to make that progress? I mean, do you know the answer?
I think it's homelessness in the first person. It's grassroots advocacy. It's having homeless people band together and take back the power and recognize the legitimate authority that they possess, and to say to the government and to say to national advocates like me, enough is enough. It's time for you to stop talking. It's time for us to start talking. It's time for us to start to make decisions.
There's a whole range of reasons why people end up on the street. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not. What we have to decide as a society, as a wealthy society, is how long we will allow them to suffer before we decide that they're worthy of help. And I think that that's not about them. That says more about us than it does about them.
I was 51 years old before I got home. I had burned up every bridge. I told God that if he was any kind of God, he could prove it to me that night, because I had been digging a hole for myself all my life. And that night I was gonna lay in that hole. And if he was any kind of God, that he would just throw dirt over me and take that life. And ironically enough, that night, my God did just what I asked him to do. I like the way that I look at it is that he covered me up with dirt all right that night. But rather than to bury me, I think he chose to plant me that night. Because that night, in the middle of the night, some help came my way. A volunteer came my way, and they took my blood pressure and engaged me in conversation. And I had been living on that bench for a year and a half, and I just wanted to die. And he looked me right in my face and he said something to me that no one had ever said to me before in my life. He looked me right in my face and he said, will you allow me to help you? And that blew me away. And I said, yes, sir. And today I'm almost 4 years clean of drug and alcohol in my life. Because of a volunteer. Because of somebody that volunteered his time unconditionally to help those less fortunate than themselves.
I don't think anybody gets off the street on their own. I think that's a misconception. And whether you get off the street in a few weeks, or you get off the street in a few months, or you get off the street in a few years, you're probably not going to be doing it on your own. Whether you have help from friends and family, or you have help from emergency services, or you're in with a Housing First program, almost no one gets off on their own.
Okay, here we go. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is home. This is it. Hi, honey, I'm home. This is actually a washroom where I laundry. I cannot wait to wash my own clothes.
Not everybody is as fortunate as some of us who walk in the right door at the right time, and it's hit or miss with that, I got lucky myself to be blessed with an establishment that helps people like me. Someone that found me was a homeless person, and he saw me in a corner one day and tapped me on the shoulder, knew something was wrong, asked me what's up with you, lady? And I told him, and he said, oh, I know where I can take you. And he brought me to this restaurant where it happens to be somewhere that helps people recover from lifestyle. And now I finally, after a couple years, I feel like I know what it feels like to have somebody to have my back. And it feels real good. I'm ready. I'm ready to start the next phase, the starting over process and the making it this time. Really ready. Sorry. Don't give up on yourself. Just because you think people gave up on you, don't give up on yourself, because you are somebody to you. You may not be to anybody else, but to you, you're somebody. It's been a long road. It's been a really long road. And a lot of people would look at this as, maybe older house. I don't know. It makes me feel good.
Smile or no smile? Are we trying to make this dramatic? I just got the guts to just be like, you know what? I gotta stop being hard-headed. I really gotta. And I picked up the phone and I called one of my teachers and I asked her for help. And she took me in the last couple of weeks. She registered me for school, and after that, everything just went good. And the counselors, she took me to the counselors referred me to here, and that's how it all happened. This place has just done so much, man. Like, I don't know where I'd be without them. They really help me a lot, and there's no way I can describe how grateful I am for this program. Like, I don't know how. They helped me a lot, so. I'm kind of glad that my mom did end up leaving me. I'm glad that, I did end up surviving, by myself. I'm glad about all these different things because they taught me so much, They taught me how to grow up. They taught me that life isn't easy. I want to be flying airplanes, and I want to have my doctorate degree. My name's Jose Alcaraz, and I was homeless.
In the fall of 2006, I was approached by a pilot program organizer who wanted to see if it was possible to take people with schizophrenia and other chronic mental illnesses and put them into an independent living situation. And I'm happy to say that ever since November 17th of 2006, I've no longer been homeless. I think that one of the reasons that I do what I do is because I've just been really lucky. There's no reason that me and the 24 other people who qualified for this program got in, and the other, 2,000 mentally ill people on the streets of Washington didn't, except for that I was in the right place at the right time.
Later on in life, I went to cosmetology school to get my license, which I'm certified in Texas. I just have to recertify for Colorado. So today, I'm not out chasing dope all day. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving back to my community. I'm working. I'm helping somebody else out. 5, 10, 15. I only did 16 cuts today. That sucks. Because I usually do, like I say, between 5 to 30 some haircuts. The record was 47, 46 haircuts in one day. Completely free. But it really is not free. I got fed. I got to take a shower. If I didn't have these guys to come to, not only the food, the clothes, the simple friendship, I would be so confused and so lost. Still. I'd still be hurting and struggling. That's more than I am now. Clean it up.
How I feel about things.
If we checked in with you in 5 years, where would you be?
Hopefully, I gave up being rich a long time ago, but hopefully, still in the right frame of mind and still able to give something to somebody else. That's all that counts. And basically, this is the house. It's small, but it's comfortable. And I'm not outside, so This is basically, this is my home, and I'm very grateful for it, you know. Right now, I wouldn't trade this for a mansion. I wouldn't trade it for, especially since I know how much lights and gas are. We were not built to live out on the streets. We adapt to that. We were made to have a home and to be cared about. My time came. Finally, after going through so many people, I had a young lady at the OPCC. She handled my case. She held me through the process. She sat me down and told me, look, this is what I need of you. She clarified things to me. She didn't just pass me over. She was always there for me. The pictures I saw in a thrift shop, I picked those up. Also, this strip right here is dolphins. These are some dolphins. I like dolphins. This is a very used facility. Me and my son, we eat a lot. You know, we utilize this area right here. This is my favorite bed. Since I have had spinal surgery, you know, I sleep on an air mattress. You know, this is my air mattress I sleep on, and it's comfortable. Got bills, I keep all the bills that are due right up under here. This is how I do it. So I don't forget, gotta pay bills first of all. So keep the bills over here. And we cut coupons. My son is a master coupon cutter, so we save all these things right here. We cut coupons. We coupon to them. We get the coupon package. We 2 men that cut coupons. I don't always make the right decisions. I'm not always organized. I'm not always doing what I'm supposed to do at the right time. But I guess that's life. Mm-hmm. That's life, you know? And I don't try to put on any kind of airs. I'm just a human being. I'm just a man. And so, you know, and everything I went through as a human being. Meaning that I cried, meaning that I complained, meaning that I had energy some days. I didn't have energy some days. I made strides forward, and then I made mistakes where it knocked me backwards. That's human, that's life.
You never know what the littlest kind thing you did on the whole for somebody who needed it, you know? So don't ever assume you can't change somebody's life, because it's quite possible. With something as simple as handing somebody a Kleenex. You know? Just do good. Be good. It's worth it. That's what I would tell everybody.
People do recover. People can recover not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically and spiritually from homelessness. All they need is to be given a chance. We're your friends, we're your neighbors, we're your parents and your children, we're the kids that go to school with you. We're just human beings like everyone else. The only difference is that we don't have a home.